In this episode, we'll explore what it really means to give in a way that changes you. Through the story of a man whose quiet generosity left a lasting legacy, we'll discover why real giving requires sacrifice and how that sacrifice builds character, compassion, and a legacy that lasts. Welcome to Small Business Big Visibility, the podcast empowering you, adventurous small business owners, to attract your ideal customers and boost your revenue. I'm your host, Jason McKenzie. Each week, we'll explore easy-to-implement tools and strategies to take your business to new heights and build the lifestyle you want. If you're ready for more profits and less stress, let's get started. I once knew a man. He wasn't famous, he didn't have a social media following, but if you lived in his community, you knew him. He was a successful farmer, he was a veteran, a retired math teacher, and one of the sharpest people I had ever met. He was also one of the most generous people I've ever known, but you'd never know it by looking at him. He didn't make a big deal about his generosity. He didn't do it for applause or recognition. In fact, he preferred to give quietly behind the scenes. One day, we were sitting at his kitchen table playing cards. He was good at cards. Remember that he had been a math teacher? Well, mental math for him was like breathing for everyone else. It was just part of him. As we played, the conversation drifted around, and he made a statement. When you're giving, it should hurt a little bit. It's nice to give, but if you don't even notice that you gave, then it doesn't really count for much. At first, I didn't get it. I thought, isn't any kind of giving good? And yes, giving at any level is good, but what he was talking about was something much deeper. He was talking about the kind of giving that actually changes people. It's easy to give when you have extra. It's easy to give when it doesn't disrupt your plans or require sacrifice. But when it costs you something, your time, your comfort, your pride, that's when real growth happens. I saw him live that way every day. He gave of his time when it wasn't convenient. He gave his money to people who could never pay him back. He would sit down with people to talk with them, not to be nosy, but to show them that they mattered. And you could tell he genuinely cared about the people he talked to. And here's the result. People loved him. When he passed away, the stories people told weren't about his successes. They were about his kindnesses, his generosity, his willingness to help, even when it cost him something. I'll never forget that lesson. When you're giving, it should hurt a little bit. And the more I think about it, the more I see how true it is. The things that change us the most are the things that cost us the most. Now, let me bring this home for you. Have you ever given something that hurt a little? Maybe it was your time when you had other plans. Maybe it was your money when things were already tight. Or maybe it was your patience when you were already running low. You know that feeling, don't you? That tension of, I could keep this for myself, but I feel like I'm supposed to give it. Here's the part that most people miss. That moment, that exact moment of tension is where your character is being built. It's easy to give from your extra. It's easy to give when it's convenient. But what happens when you give from your limits? What happens when you give in a way that requires you to step outside your comfort zone? I'll share with you a couple of things that happen. You'll become stronger and you'll become more compassionate. Giving from sacrifice will build strength. When you push through that discomfort and give anyway, you build both mental and emotional strength. It's kind of like lifting weights. If you only lift what's light, you'll never grow. But if you push through that resistance, you get stronger. You can think of it like this. The weight of generosity is what builds the muscle of character. Every time you give when it hurts, you're building something inside you. Sacrificial giving also increases compassion. Here's the thing about giving that hurts a little. It makes you more compassionate towards others. Why? Because you know what it feels like. You know what it feels like to be stretched, to feel like you've given too much. And that makes you more empathetic. The next time you see someone in need, you won't say, they should help themselves. You'll say, I know what it's like to be stretched thin, and I'll help anyway. And here's what happens next. You'll find peace, not because everything in your life is perfect, but because you'll know you're living with purpose. Here's the bottom line. If it doesn't hurt a little, it won't change you much. That doesn't mean you have to hurt yourself to be a good person. It means that true generosity, the kind that builds your character and strengthens your heart, requires something of you. It's not supposed to be easy. If you only give when it's convenient, you're not growing. If you only help when it fits your schedule, you're not stretching. Real generosity can be uncomfortable, but that's where transformation happens. This week, I would love for you to think about this question. When's the last time you gave in a way that cost you something? Not just your money, your time, your patience, your attention, maybe your pride. If it's been a while, maybe it's time to stretch again. Now, some of you might be thinking, Jason, I'm already stretched too thin. I don't have anything left to give. I hear you. I've been there too. But giving doesn't always mean money. Sometimes it means patience, grace, encouragement. It means pausing your own stress for 5 minutes to listen to someone else. You don't have to give big to give deeply. The size of the gift isn't what matters. It's the heart behind it. If you're running on empty, I'm not asking you to burn out. But I am asking you to find one small way to give in a way that'll stretch you. Because when you do, you'll grow. Real generosity requires sacrifice. And that's where true growth begins. This week, I challenge you to give in a way that stretches you. Maybe it's time, maybe it's patience, maybe it's grace. Whatever it is, I want you to notice that moment of discomfort and give anyway. That's the moment where your character grows. Until next time, keep giving, stay focused on what matters, and watch your life and business thrive.